your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Coupe Stanley pour les Canadiens. Le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs!
And all together, they worked the young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup.
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. 8.6 beer. Intense by nature. And Locage. If the last time you went to Locage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you went back to Locage. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday, November 24th. It is 1 minute past 10 p.m., and you are watching the Sick Podcast with my toque and all. Proud to wear my Canada toque. That's number one. Number two, one of the other reasons why I'm wearing it is I took a nap before the show, and when I woke up, I had all these red marks all over my forehead. I don't know if we can see them or not, but, you know, these pillow marks and stuff like that. But I said, you know what, that doesn't look too good, so tonight I'm going to wear my toque. Anyway, that's a story. I probably shouldn't have told you why I was wearing it, but I told you anyway. I'm one of those guys. I just don't keep anything a secret, and I'll always tell you the truth. The show is brought to you in part by Lacage. If the last time you went to Lacage was when the Habs won the Cup, it's time you go back to Lacage. The menu will surprise you. And the Montreal Canadiens, I think, maybe surprised the Columbus Blue Jackets a little bit last night with a 3-1 win, because it was just 6 nights before that the Canadiens went to Columbus and the cannon went off at least 6 times, because it also went off before the game. So make it 7. And the Canadiens lost big a week ago in Columbus, and they won 3-1 last night. And for a change, it was team defense that got it done. It was Arber Xhekaj who scored for the Canadiens. It was David Savard who also scored, and Sean Monahan added an empty netter in front of Samuel Montembeault, who, you know what, has really progressed in the last year. There's no doubt about that. We have our guy, because tonight I know exactly where I'm going. I'm going to go on the topic of young players. And I'm going to go on the topic of Jordan Harris. I'm going to go on the topic of Caden Gooley. I'm going to go on the topic of Arber Xhekaj, and everyone's favorite young player. I'm going to go on the topic of Juraj Slafkovsky. Actually, when I say young players, I mean, I can add Caulfield and Suzuki into the mix, but it almost seems like they're established veteran players, even though it's just a couple of years in the league for Caulfield. But I want to talk about some of those other guys. So I bring in a guy who's studied the draft over the past couple of years and knows it well. He's a former Montreal Canadian scout in the Bob Gainey regime, and today he runs his own independent scouting service. He's Grant McCagg of Recruits and recrutes.ca. Grant, how are you?
Hey, Tony. Good. Yourself?
Very, very good. I just noticed that we can actually change the lighting. Here we go. I think the lighting's a lot better. Now, there we go. I think that's better. Okay. Very good, Grant. I want to talk to you about the young players. A decision, it seems, was made with Juraj Slafkovsky. I think it almost seems like, if we take a look at his ice time, we take a look at the line that he's playing on, it almost seems like they're going according to a script, and that they probably had before the season started, and they said, let's ease him in slowly but surely. In that regard, he wouldn't be different than a lot of rookies. I mean, I talked about Joe Thornton over the past couple of days. Well, Thornton in his rookie season picked up just 7 points in 55 games. And by golly, Slafkovsky, who's got 5 points in like 15 games or whatever it is, he's on pace to actually do better than that. If you think about it, let's just say he plays 75 games. Well, he'll finish with 25 points in 75 games if the math prevails and he's on to the same average, of course. But the other night, Mike Hoffman goes down with an injury, and Juraj Slafkovsky is brought up from the 4th line to the 2nd line. He plays that game versus the Buffalo Sabres. He plays about 14 and a half minutes. They lose by a score of 7-2. And then last night they were in Columbus, And there you have it. Juraj Slafkovsky is back on the fourth line, playing about 10 minutes, and Evgeny Dadonov is in his spot. So just your overall thoughts on when he does get a promotion for whatever reason, it just doesn't seem to last very long. Predetermined, in your opinion, or not?
That's a good question, Tony. I don't know. I think maybe, if he'd have had a very good game, that he'd probably been with them again the next night. But I mean, the whole team, including that line, wasn't overly good in that game. I know he started the season with Dvorak and Gallagher, right?
Yeah.
The first couple of games, and they didn't really click. But Dvorak and Gallagher weren't playing very well at the time either. And they, their play had been better of late, but then when they put them back together again, you didn't seem to see much. They didn't seem to click too well there. So I don't know. Like sometimes, I think they want to give him opportunities, and maybe not too often. They started the season there. If he'd have clicked, they'd have probably kept him there for a bit. And the same with the one game again. Throw him the odd cookie there and see if he takes advantage of it. I know like Craig Ramsey when he was with the Olympic team and the World Championships, he started him off in lower line, and then brought him up as he was producing it and deserving it, but then he kept producing, and I have a feeling that one of these times he'll get called up, and hopefully he'll click with guys in the top nine, and then get more of a look with that line as time goes on. But certainly his play away from the puck is still, Marty brought it up in one of his pressers in the past week, and he's losing a lot of pucks. He's still there's turnovers and there's work to be done away from the play. And I think maybe a little worried about him playing against other teams' top two lines. When he has those turnovers, they're going to click. They're going to convert on them a little more often than when you turn it over when you're up against another team's fourth line.
The Sick Podcast brought to you in part by Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider serving all of North America, driven to be different. We'll get back to the Canadians in just a second. Obviously, it's a very sad day in the hockey world, Grant, as Maurice Joseph, longtime Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman of a 16-year career, passed away earlier this afternoon after a battle with ALS. We'll get back to the Canadians in a minute. Is there a Boreas Salming memory that you would have for me?
I just remember him being the one, I mean, I didn't mind Darryl Sittler either, really, but Salming was the one guy that you just, I mean, I grew up, my grandfather was a big Leafs fan, and my mother and my dad and myself were a Habs fan, so there was always that rivalry there. But, so, I've always not cheered for the Leafs, too much, but Boreas Song was someone that I couldn't cheer against. He just total respect for the man. He changed the game. He let us see that you could be tough without dropping the gloves. I think he's the first guy. He was a trend. He started the European wave, but I also think that he started where the first real player that you could call tough, who never ever dropped the gloves, because he didn't have to. He played a different way, but he was courageous as they came. And I just had complete respect for Boreas Salming, and it was very sad to see. Although I'm glad to see that he got that one trip back for the Hall of Fame, and the ovation in Toronto again. And it's nice that he got that one last. We got that one last time to say goodbye to him.
Yeah. One of the moments I'll never forget, and once again, he had such a real good career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He was a very, very consistent performer. He was a tough player to play against. He played his position really, really well. It didn't take long for him to garner respect from everyone in the National Hockey League. He was a leader on that Toronto Maple Leafs team for a very, very long time. I'm sure you're going to recall this, Grant, but back in 1986, November of 86 it was, He suffered one of the scariest injuries in the history of the National Hockey League, and he was lying down in front of the goalkeeper, and Gerard Gallant of the Detroit Red Wings lost his balance and ended up stepping on Salming's face.
Yeah.
And he got stitched up for almost 300 stitches. And the scar went all around his face, but basically curved around his eye and just missed his eye by like that much. And he could have, easily lost his vision back then. So in his huge misfortune on that night, he was actually lucky that he didn't lose his eye, or, it was terrible. It's one of the ugliest injuries the National Hockey League has ever seen. The other one that comes to my mind, of course, there's several, but the other one is Clint Malarchuk getting sliced open. Richard Zednik got sliced open by a skate as well.
Yeah.
But I think those were the three scariest skate slashing accidents that we've seen in the history of the National Hockey League. Malarchuk, Zednik, and Salming.
Yeah.
But obviously our thoughts are with, Maple Leafs land and their fans and entire Leafs Nation tonight. We lost a good one in Boreas Salming.
Oh, definitely. And, like when you bring that up, I can still picture the photograph that was in the papers the next day or whatever, the famous photograph of him with the cut. And it was just amazing. And I don't think he was even out that long. He was just so tough. He was a warrior. I remember Harold Ballard saying about the Swedes and this and that, and he could go in the corner with eggs and come out of the corner and not break them, but Boria proved pretty quickly that he wasn't afraid of anybody.
It is the Sick Podcast, and it is brought to you in part by 8.6 Beer, intense by nature, the beer for those who follow their instinct and live their passions in order to make their mark. I had it somewhere here. I was reading up on it earlier tonight, and I think somebody just actually texted something about it. But he, like you just said, he didn't miss many games coming back from that injury. And I remember he took the entire hockey world by shock. They were like, oh my God, is this guy ever going to play again? Oh yeah, he played, and he didn't miss too many games thereafter. It was really unbelievable. Anyway, what a terrible, terrible, terrible disease ALS is. I mean, no disease is good. This one is just really, really terrible. All right. Once again, our thoughts and prayers as we continue on the Sick Podcast. We'll talk about the Montreal Canadiens, who are in Chicago. They're already there, but they'll visit the Chicago Blackhawks tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. It's an early start, of course. Thanksgiving Thursday today in the United States, so Thanksgiving weekend usually coincides with games on, earlier on Thursdays or on Fridays, especially on Fridays. On Thursdays, they tend to avoid because, of course, the National Football League plays several games. All right. Okay. We talked about Slafkovsky. You talked about Marty St. Louis saying a couple of days ago that young players usually don't think about playing without the puck, but they should, because it's knowing how to play without the puck that is going to lead to scoring chances. What was your scouting report on him without the puck before he was drafted?
Decent. I think it's but the Slovakian men's league or the Finnish elite league, compared to the NHL, there's such a difference. And of course the smaller ice, he's finding that he doesn't have the room that he had before to make he's got to make quicker decisions, and especially with the puck and stuff. And but I mean, for a 17-year-old kid that was playing men's hockey, I thought his defense was quite good. And I think he'll be an excellent defensive player as time goes along. It's just there's a lot to learn, big adaptation to play in the best league and in North America on the smaller rinks. And it's taken him some time, but I think all of these, all of these learning moments have just been great for him. Like, the hit he took against, the kid in Minnesota, he knows now, he learned the lesson from that, right? Not to keep braced in the play and be ready for the unexpected. Like, people are on you right away in the NHL. And then the same thing with the hit into the boards where he got suspended. You don't do that. Some of the giveaways that he's had in recent games, I'm sure, you can tell that he doesn't, that he wants to win badly. And I mean, it was one of the reasons why they picked him, because they think that he's going to help them win playoff games down the road. But it's a learning curve, and we have to be patient. And hopefully he is as patient as the team is, because they seem to be, doing it the right way. They're certainly more patient about it than I am. I want him in the top 6 from day one.
Yeah, I was taking calls last night right here on the Sick Podcast after the Canadiens defeated the Columbus Blue Jackets by a score of 3-1. And a gentleman called in, and he wasn't sold on Juraj Slafkovsky, and he referenced the fact that Slafkovsky picked up 10 points in 31 games with TPS Turku in Finland. And he thought that there should be alarm bells there that, how many guys have a season like that, end up going number 1 and end up having a real good productive career. And one of the things I tried to warn him about, or I brought up, was that, okay, I understand you're concerned with 10 points in 31 games. Okay. Well, the leading point getter on his team picked up 39 points in 56 games.
Yeah.
So 29 more points in 25 more games. Okay.
Right.
Well, that leading point getter on his team was also, 6 or 7 years older than him. He also played with guys on that team that, were a lot older than him. 10 years older than him, 11 years older than him, 12 years older than him. He played in a league where he's going up against guys that are, once again, 10, 11, 12, 13 years older than him. He has a teammate who's 34 years of age. So I tried to stress, we're talking about a 17-year-old kid playing in a men's league versus 25, 27, 29, 31, 33, 34-year-old players. It's not easy to pick up those points. Would you like to elaborate and give us your thoughts on that?
Well, like, how many first overall picks were European and played men's hockey in their draft year? I mean, you can't compare. You compare it to what? There's been very few. And I posted stats last year of kids like Aho and others that have gone on to be very good NHLers in their draft year. Did they put up better stats? And there was, I think, in the history of all drafted European players, I think there's 3 or 4 or 5 that have put up more points than Slafkovsky did, points per game, right? Because he only played 30, so you have to go by points per game. So, I mean, you can't, Rantanen, all of those guys, none of them, the only guy that really produced well in his draft year was Barkov. I think he was close to a point per game, and Line A, they're the only 2 guys. So it's you're 17-year-old. Just the fact that he played 30 games in the Finnish men's league at that age is amazing. What I wonder, what I find funny about the people that point to one, they cherry pick on one specific stat.
Yeah.
But then the fact that he led the Olympics in goal scoring and was the MVP is irrelevant to them. It just you got to look at the whole package, right? And then in the playoffs,
I love the fact, if I can, I love the fact that you brought up Sebastian Aho, because Sebastian Aho played for Karpat and then played the last 3 games with Pori. Well, Sebastian Aho picked up 13 points in 30 games in his draft year. 13 points in 30 games. Sebastian Aho, thus far in his NHL career, has had seasons of 83 points. He's had seasons of 81 points. He's had seasons of 66 points in 68 games. He's got seasons of 57 points in 56 games. And this year, he's got 22 points in 20 games. So Sebastian Aho picked up 13 points in 30 games his draft year.
There you go.
13 points in 30 games.
Yeah. Solani and
picked up 10 points in 31 games. 3 points less in one game more. And Sebastian Aho is a point per game player in the National Hockey League.
Right.
That's a great point, Grant. That's a great point.
And I mean, Timo Solani, I like to point to Timu, like the best Finnish players ever, like Solani, Koivu. They didn't even make the men's, in their draft years, they weren't playing in the Finnish men's hockey league, Timu Solani didn't even play in the Finnish men's hockey league in his draft year. And then in his first year in the NHL, scored 76 goals. So, you can look at those stats and you can say, oh, well, that means that he can't. But that's not how you do it. You scout the player. And what we saw last year was just it's going to take a couple of years for him to be a big point producer, but he will be. And in the playoffs, I believe he was 5th on his team in scoring. It's just such a low scoring league. Like you were pointing to the stats, I believe he was 5th. He may have been 7th, between 5th and 7th in scoring, as a 17-year-old. They're just turning 18, which to me is very impressive. And I thought he played a strong all around game in the playoffs and really helped them. That's the main reason they drafted him. I think they went over, they saw him in the playoffs, they saw him at the Olympics, they saw him at the World Championships and helped his team. All he did was help his team. They overachieved, every team that he played with last year. So that's the thinking, I think, with Hughes and Lapointe and Gorton and the gang, is that Slafkovsky's he's a winner, and he's going to help the Canadians win down the road. You just don't be looking for it at 18 years of age necessarily.
A shout out to Playground. They have over 600 machines, poker tournaments, and Playground casino games, daily promotions, and unmatched customer service. Why go anywhere else? Located just over the Mercier Bridge, only minutes from downtown Montreal. It is Playground. All right, okay. Back to Slafkovsky for a second. In the couple of games he's played with Dvorak and Gallagher, they have not produced. And when they don't, and then he goes back to the fourth line and he plays with, last night it was Evans and Pizzetta or wherever it may be, some people say, I want to see him playing with Sean Monahan. When you take a look at the players on the Canadians, right now where Slafkovsky is in his development curve in his rookie season, who do you think he would fit best with right now, and why?
I agree with I'd like to see him play with Monahan. I think Monahan is a very good playmaker, good has good puck possession skills, and a smart two-way centerman. I would like to see him playing with Monahan and Anderson. Get that extra size on the line, and do a lot of cycling down low. Monahan's a big boy too. I've noticed in recent games there he can handle himself pretty well along the boards and I think that's a line that could do some damage on the cycle if given the chance. And that to me, hopefully at some point here he gets a look with Monahan and Anderson.
With Monahan and Anderson. All right. On Josh Anderson, if we can, he leads the Montreal Canadiens in hits, but you look at him and you say, I need to see more goals from this guy. I need to see more points from this guy. Grant, my evaluation of Josh Anderson is already in. He's 28 years old. He's been in the National Hockey League briefly since, the 14-15 season, up and down. Let's just say his first season was 16-17, where he played more games. He played 78 games. I think he is who he is, and you're not going to see him put up over 30 goals with any regularity. It's a number he's never hit. He's never hit more than 47 points. He did that once. Other than that, he had 32 points. Other than that, he had 24 points. Other than that, he had 30 points. Other than that, he had 29 points. I think he's going to keep us wanting more goals from him for the rest of his career, wanting more points from him for the rest of his career. He's under contract for several years. The number is digestible at $5.5 million. But he's the type of player that other teams would want because he's got term left on his contract, because the number is digestible, because he's in the prime of his career at 28 years old, because he's 6'3" and 220 pounds, because he's a power forward right winger. For all those reasons and more. But my question to you is, would you be willing to trade Josh Anderson? And if so, what do you think his value would be on the marketplace?
Oh, sure. And I agree with you with, he's very inconsistent, You'll see it one game where he has a great, period or two, and then you're thinking, okay, here we go. He's going to, start scoring regularly, and then he disappears again for 2 or 3 games. Is a bit like Armia in that regard, just the inconsistency is discouraging, because when he's on his game and he's roaring down the wing and forechecking and hitting guys and making plays, although he's never going to be a playmaker. Like unfortunately he has tunnel vision to a certain degree there, like you saw the play last night there where he got the puck and his head was down, and there was a guy ahead of him and all he had to do was get it up to him, but the tunnel vision came in, and I mean, he can play a third line energy role and bang in some goals. Playoff time. When they were on the run a couple of years ago, he had some big moments there, and he can help. If the Canadians fall out of the playoff race, and a team comes calling with a first round pick or whatever, for sure, I would entertain trading Anderson for sure.
All right, so I've already brought this up on the Sick Podcast. I have it on good information that the New Jersey Devils are very, very interested in him. I'm sure they're not the only ones. So let's just say New Jersey, and I know you know the prospects and around the National Hockey League like the back of your hand, but who would be the one guy do you think that the Canadians could probably get from New Jersey, even if it took the Canadians trying to spice it up a little bit, maybe add in another prospect or another draft choice themselves? Who do you think is the one guy the Canadians should target?
That's a very good question. Most of their guys are with the big team, and the ones that are desirable, like Luke Hughes and Holtz, I don't know that they'd be made available. I suppose Alexander Holtz would be you try to pry him from the Devils, but I think New Jersey would be more inclined to offer a decent draft pick than one of their leading prospects. But I think if you did, it would probably be Holtz, and you would have to send something else back for sure.
What's the ceiling for Holtz? I mean, we're talking about a guy, if memory serves me well, last year with Utica, probably scored a goal every other game. Is this the type of player that has 30 goals in him at the National Hockey League level?
Yeah, I think so. Has to keep working on his skating a bit, get a little stronger. Typical European that's not necessarily ready at 21 to play, the NHL pace. But he is a sniper. He is a really good, unlike Anderson, he'll hit the net, when he's in the slot with the puck, 70% of the time, as opposed to 20 or whatever it is with Josh. But he's a sniper. And the Canadians, I think he's got second line winger upside. They could use a goal scorer on the second line, that's for sure.
I think it's safe to say that no matter how much the Canadians would want to entice New Jersey with obviously players or prospects that, are not home run players or prospects in return, that it would be very difficult to price Simon Nemec away. I mean, they really have to do something pretty exceptional there. We're talking about a guy who went second overall in the draft. And of course, a lot of people are watching us right now on Facebook Live, on Twitter Live, and on YouTube Live. They're bringing up Nemec's name because he's from Slovakia. He's got a great relationship with Juraj Slafkovsky. He's got a great relationship with Philip Machar. Everyone's dreaming of seeing the three Slovaks together as Montreal Canadiens, in the very near future for a very long time. But they probably have no interest in trading him away.
Well, the trade works on my PlayStation, Tony, and that's it.
Yeah, I got it. I got it. All right. Okay, so we got that out of the way. On to more young players. There's been, ever since Mike Matheson came back, a little bit of rotation. Marty St. Louis said, listen, this is the way it's going to go down. Jordan Harris is going to miss a game every now and then. Arbor Xhekaj is going to miss a game every now and then. Kovacevic will miss a game every now and then. Notice, I don't think he threw Caden Gooley's name in that mix of defensemen missing a game every now and then. What do you think of the rotation? And out of the young guys, who do you think misses most of the games? Is it going to be an equal rotation, you think? Because when Xhekaj was out of the lineup versus Buffalo, a lot of people said Xhekaj out of the lineup versus a big team, probably not a good idea, yada, yada, yada. And they lost by a score of 7-2. He's number 72. A lot of people looked at it as a little bit of a message that 72 has to be in the Canadiens lineup. He comes back next game. He scores a goal in Columbus. Is Xhekaj going to be part of that rotation, you think? Or do you think the coach is going to change his mind on that one?
Yeah, the next time they face Tage Thompson, I think Xhekaj is going to be out there, on the ice every shift.
My God.
They needed him.
Or is he something?
He is, yeah. I mean, what a load.
Whoa.
That was one of the most impressive big man games I've seen from, a guy that's 6'5" plus in a long time, brought back memories of Lindros. Yeah, he's just getting better and better. He's that line's going to be a load to have to deal with over the next couple of years. And I'm glad, hey, Marty's, he's a rookie coach basically. And, there's going to be these times when they make these decisions where, okay, we won't be doing that next time, Like I did make a comment about that on Twitter last night that, it was curious that they took out Kovacevic and Xhekaj against what might be the biggest team in the league, and it showed. I wrote an article a week or so ago, concerning what they probably will do. And I did, I kind of figured that would be the route they take, would be to rotate guys, Xhekaj, Kovacevic and Harris mostly. I think they could also, it might not hurt to down the stretch as we go along here to maybe rest one of the vets every now and then too, depending. I mean, if they keep struggling, on and off, so far Matheson and Edmondson haven't lit it up, exactly. If they have some struggles for a week or so, I don't think you can, it might not hurt to rest them on a back-to-back every now and then if the other kids get going again. But I think it'll, the six that are playing the best will probably get in the lineup the most. But out of the three, I at this point I'd say Harris is probably going to miss more games than the other guys, predominantly because Kovacevic is a righty,
Yeah.
And I don't think they want 5 left-handed D-men in the lineup too often.
Yeah. And I know that Harris played right defense at Northeastern, but there's a difference between playing right defense at Northeastern and playing at the National Hockey League level, where he struggled quite a bit. Grant, judging from the comments that I see on YouTube Live, you've been a very much appreciated guest tonight on the Sick Podcast. A lot of people with some real nice things to say about you, which you see, Grant, it's not always bad, right? Social media can be a bad place, but tonight YouTube Live has been very, very good to you. That's his Twitter handle. It's at Grant McCagg. He's a former scout with the Montreal Canadiens in the Bob Gainey regime. He runs his own independent scouting service with recruits and recrutes.ca. For not a lot of money, you'll get yourself an annual subscription. You'll get a lot of inside information, scouting reports. You'll get a lot of analysis. You'll get a lot of interviews that Grant does with young players and some prospects from the Montreal Canadiens. Grant, I hope I sold it well for you. If there's anything you'd like to add in, go for it.
No, Tony, you sold it fantastic. I couldn't add a single thing. I appreciate it as always.
Well, thanks, Grant, for joining me tonight. You know I appreciate it as well. There you have it, Grant McCagg. Thanks, buddy. Have a good night. All right, it's now time to talk some player cards, which is a segment I really appreciate.
Sick Sports Cards. Presented by Sports La Tournade.
Oh, yeah. Sick Sports Cards is presented by Sports La Tournade. There's my buddy Chris. Look at him. What a beauty. Sports cards, collectibles, and more. Visit the store at 1 Avenue de la Fabrique in Vaudreuil-Dorion. What's going on, my man?
Not much. Just had a big day of watching a lot of football.
Yeah, back at the store he is.
Yes, I am.
And you know what? As I prepared for the show, a little bit of on and a little bit of off here, what did I miss in the football world tonight?
Last I left, when I left, there was halftime between the last game was
the Patriots and the Vikings. It's 26-23.
26-23, okay.
And in the third quarter. Okay, all right. So
okay.
that's what I missed, because of course we all had a chance to watch what happened earlier today, and the Buffalo Bills 28, the Detroit Lions 25, and the Dallas Cowboys over the New York Giants by a score of 28-20. What a beautiful day in the world of football today. And not only American football, but also European and South American and another kind of football, which here in North America is a sport that they talk soccer. And we'll have the Go for Gold segment a little bit later on. We'll tell you what happened today, and we'll line up who is playing tomorrow. As I'm wearing my Canada toque, and I've spent most of the night, by the way, Chris, everyone sees me moving my toque, and they're wondering why. Well, because I'm trying to get the middle of my glasses between the N and the A, and that's when it's probably going to be centered. Anyway, that's a problem that I'm having tonight, which is my problem. Hey, you were at the sports card show in Toronto, which was now several weeks ago. We brought it up, in passing a little bit, but I'd like to recap the show with you if I can. And I'm wondering, paint a picture for me about how many tables are set up at a show like that, how many people are walking in, and without giving away all your trade secrets, is there something that you do so that your relationship as the seller is different than someone else's relationship who owns another store with someone approaching them at the table, which would be the buyer? So, I mean, everyone has a selling technique. There's a technique even when you do podcasting and radio or TV and you do interviews. There's the whole breaking of the ice process that you try and do, which I tried to do with Jeff Gordon. Make the other person smile at one point, maybe make them laugh, break the ice, break them in slowly but surely. And your degree of questioning maybe goes a little deeper and deeper, and maybe a little bit more level of difficulty as it goes on. Without giving away your trade secrets, I mean, is there something you do to ensure that your relationship with the buyer is a little bit different than what they'll get somewhere else? And do you do it all the time? Talk to me about that.
Yeah, definitely I do. But before I get there, I just want to show you this. This is, look at this. We got a new at Spallet on that. This is a Caden Gooley pillow.
Wow.
Okay. This is
Wow.
the next time I see you, this is yours. This is your birthday present from the store.
Okay, hold on a second.
So-
I'm gonna do this now, okay?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I'm gonna go in the other room and there's gonna be something that I want to show you. But talk about that pillow for a second. I'll be back in 30 seconds, okay?
Okay.
All right. Talk to the listeners and viewers about it.
Okay, so these pillows are made. They're a very good. They're a very hot commodity right now because people are picking them up as Christmas presents in the store. We have Caden Gooley, I have Kirby Dack, I have Caulfield, we have Suzuki with the captain, we have Suzuki from last year. I also have all the other big players: Ovechkin, Crosby, Austin Matthews. We can have custom ones made. Somebody ordered a Tom Brady, so we do have many players available. And they sell for $35, and they're a great Christmas gift.
All right. This is a home that likes pillows.
Right.
And here's my buddy Leo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And here's my buddy Cristiano.
Right on.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
So there you have it. We like pillows. Those are pretty nice, huh?
So you're a soccer guy, and I always ask all the soccer guys, because I'm not that big into soccer, who's better?
The easy way out is to tell you that they're both very different players, and that we shouldn't compare them because they're different. Okay. If you don't want me to take the easy way out, it's funny because they're both wearing jerseys of their former teams here. Messi sporting a Barcelona jersey and Ronaldo sporting a Juventus. If you don't want me to take the easy way out and answer the question, I will say this. I will say that, and it's funny because if you ask anyone who's Portuguese, they're going to tell you Ronaldo's obviously better.
That's the obvious.
And they'll tell you that Lionel Messi was a byproduct of Barcelona, and that Cristiano Ronaldo can do what he does with any team, and Messi cannot. Which is it's anyway. It's their opinion. It's kind of ludicrous though. And if you talk to anyone who's from Argentina, they'll tell you Messi. Here's the deal: by the letter of the law and the actual term player, to play means to run, to dribble, to make moves, to zigzag, to use others around you. Lionel Messi, in that respect, is a better player than Cristiano Ronaldo. He's more of an east-west player who can also play north-south, and Ronaldo is more of a north-south player. It's remarkable what Cristiano Ronaldo has been able to do for himself and build himself into the machine that he is. I've talked to a lot of pro players, and everyone has an opinion. And what I notice is if you're a striker, most will probably say it's Ronaldo because he's been playing as a striker lately. And if you're not, you play another position. But most players seem to say, and by the way, my older son has been playing with one player who played in La Liga and played against Lionel Messi. And Lionel Messi had a really, really good game against him. And he told my son that, they're obviously both great, but Cristiano was much more predictable on the field than Lionel Messi was. You kind of knew what Cristiano was going to do. He would beat you because he'd probably out-muscle you, or he was really, really potent. But you never really knew what Lionel Messi was going to do because he was very, very unpredictable. Ronaldo is a guy, one-on-one, down the wing or in the box, he can kill you. Lionel Messi can go through 5 or 6 guys and score a goal or set up somebody else. So by the letter of the whole player thing, Messi's a better player. But, I know a lot of people who prefer Cristiano Ronaldo, and there's no wrong answer to this, right? I mean, Ronaldo is... We're talking, at the end of the day, we're talking about arguably the 2 greatest players of all time, right? So is there a wrong answer to this? I mean, I don't think so, right? When we're talking about arguably the two greatest players of all time. I don't think there's a wrong answer to this, but I really don't. So,
well, thanks for the education. Now I know. I'll take that. I'll take that.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So now, but everyone has a preference, right? And I like Cristiano's Twitter account and his Instagram account a lot more. Okay. Kelly says yes.
Austin Matthews pillow.
Austin Matthews pillow. How do I order one?
Yeah, you can give us a call at 450-218-3133. So that's, you can call us at the store. You can reach us on Facebook Messenger or through like on our Facebook page, Sport La Tornade. Yeah. Get a hold of us. We can ship it out for you anywhere you want. So
I was probably away going to get the pillows when you talked about Austin Matthews, but did you say what that's going for, or is that?
No, I was talking about the pillows. They're all the same price, but I was just saying how I can get different players from different teams. Okay. They're all you can custom make. If I don't have it and you have a special player, I can get it done. So, but definitely in the store is mostly Canadian stuff. But I do actually have an Austin Matthews.
Well, you're gonna end up selling a lot of Cole Caulfields and a lot of Nick Suzuki's, I would imagine.
Yes, especially Christmas is coming, and those guys are hot.
Okay, that's pretty cool. All right. So you know what's I don't know if you told me about the you showed me the pillow, but what's your approach like with buyers?
So the approach with buyers is so this year in the show, every time I go to the show in Toronto, which I push more and more for the collectors, they need to go, they need to experience this, because every year it gets bigger and bigger. So it's quite the experience. And what my experience is sometimes I have a table, sometimes I don't. So this year I went as a buyer. I did not actually have a table there. I showed up on the Thursday night. I get settled in. We did the podcast on the Thursday night. Friday, I showed up at the show, and I don't tend to buy on the Friday. I like to settle in, ask questions, see what's going on. You talk to all the vendors. You're at different tables talking to vendors, and you see the tendencies of the buyers to see what the market's like and what people are looking for. So this year at the show, the market was very different than other years. So right now, people are using the word recession or whatever it may be. So the market's a little bit lower right now, and the vendors seem to be a little bit more flexible. They were pushing more for the sale this year. And for collectors all around now, the time to buy is now. The cards are a little bit lower right now at this point. So if you can buy and you want to add to your collection, or you want to, finish a collection that you're not done, a set per se, it's time. It's if you want that card that you haven't, if you've been looking for some Suzuki card that you haven't been able to get for a while because, it's been quite pricey. It's time now that the tide has turned a bit more for the collectors and not so much the vendors. So the vendors had a very good time during COVID. People were at home. People were doing their buying online. People were watching sports card breaks that we'll get into eventually, opening packs and buying. So people, during COVID could do that, and they were spending a bit more money. And the vendors were. It was more of a sales market, and now all of a sudden we're seeing now the tables have turned towards more buying. So if you can, now's the time to buy, especially coming up. Like tomorrow's not Boxing Day, but Black Friday.
Yeah.
So Black Friday, every local card store is going to be putting on some pretty sick deals. So it's probably a good time to go shop tomorrow on Black Friday. Sports cards is almost like TVs. It's pretty hot. There's a lot of sales out there. So the
sales on everything, sales on packs, sales on individual cards, the sales on stickers, sales on.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So I went through it today. I went on my shelves and I just basically knocked down everything. Everything tomorrow is going to be a sale. It's Black Friday. Just to bring people in and have a look and show them the new stuff, obviously. So, at the show, it was definitely a buyer's market, and I saw a lot of deals, but there's the difference between myself and say another vendor. Now, I don't want to say, you never want to say, look, I'm better than someone else, or I feel like if I use an example, Tiger Woods, Tom Brady, all the greats. I always say they're the best at what they do because they study more than anyone else.
Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan,
Wayne Gretzky.
Absolutely.
Tony Marinaro.
Yeah, well, I think if you study the game, you know what's coming. I can give you a great example. I have at the store here, I got a huge collection of Cale Makar. Okay. And people always said, Cale Makar, why Cale Makar? Well, I was looking at it over a month ago, and I was thinking, 200 points, 200 games, the record's coming. When he breaks that record, what's going to happen to his cards?
Way up. Absolutely.
So you got to study that. And if you're into cards, but you don't really watch the game and stuff like that, you're going to miss out on some of those things.
Is there any Cale Makar card that I can get at your store, even though everyone knows the value is going to shoot way up? That's somewhat of a great deal right now. Is there a card that's a little bit different that maybe I can get at a good price?
Yeah, there's Cale Makar cards at my store anywhere from $10 right up to $1,200. More than that, actually. I got some at $3,000, some big ones. So yeah, there's Cale Makar is hot right now. Another player at the show, even though we were in Toronto, oddly enough, was Cole Caulfield. Every table I went to, people were talking about Cole Caulfield. What do you have? What do you have for Cole Caulfield?
Oh, really?
Yeah. So,
Chris, this has been all very enriching as usual. In ending, any surprises at the show in Toronto?
Yeah, actually, there was a big surprise for me this year. I showed up there. Oh, yeah. I was not expecting this, but I showed up this year, and I like to go see every table, every vendor. And there's always displays. Upper Deck is there and everything. And I went in the corner where all the grading companies are. So there's big grading companies that grade the cards. People know PSA. People know Beckett. People know MNT, KSA. They're bigger companies. And all of a sudden I fell upon this new grading company, and it's been a while now that I've been saying that we're now in 2022. We need to upgrade in the card grading world because a lot of cards are still getting graded by the human eye, and they're still being seen by people. And I feel like, there's different people grading the cards all the time, and they're coming back. I'm seeing some that come back that, maybe shouldn't be a 10. They don't look perfect. They don't look like 10s, but they're coming back as 10s. And I feel that it's hard to judge as a collector, what do I send or what don't I send in to get graded? So this new company called Tag had their booth there. I went and visited them. I stayed there for 2 hours. I really suggest people look them up. They have come up with a technology that is pretty all computerized. The card is basically, I like to see it like an X-ray. So they'll take like an X-ray of your card. They have their slab that they put the card in is by far superior. They have great rates. They're really going to push the game in the future. I feel like they're very up and coming.
Thanks so much for doing this, man, and we'll talk to you again in a while. He is Chris Latournade from Sports Card Show La Tornade on 1 Avenue de la Fabrique in Vaudreuil-Dorion, and he says there's some great deals to be had tomorrow. Black Friday in the United States is going to be going on at 6 Sports Cards presented by Sports La Tornade. Thanks, Chris. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, you're very welcome. Joining me right now is a former Montrealer who's an assistant coach at Butler University, and he's had a very prestigious career as a coach, coaching basketball, and as a former player. And I'm going to introduce him right now. His name is Maurice Joseph, and he goes by Coach Mojo _, whether it's on Twitter or Instagram. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing great. Can you hear me okay?
I can definitely hear you well. If you want to come across a little bit better on the screen, maybe turn the phone sideways. There we go. Fantastic. We got it done. All right.
All right.
Hey, thank you for doing this. And I'm bringing you on, and I'm sure a lot of people are watching right now and saying, wow, where's this going? We're talking basketball tonight. It's a big day in football. Thanksgiving Thursday night States, there were 3 games. It's a big day at the World Cup of soccer. There were 4 games. It's Montreal. We're always talking Canadians. Why are we talking basketball? Well, the reason why we're going to talk basketball here is because for the very first time, 6 Division I NCAA basketball teams are going to face off in Montreal for games that actually count. And they're going to be tomorrow, they're going to be Saturday, and they're going to be Sunday. Coach, how did this all come about?
Well, JD Sports has done an unbelievable job of bringing college basketball to Montreal and to Canada with the foreign tours. They bring teams in the summertime and give young student athletes who play Division I a cultural experience, but also play some high level basketball against universities like McGill and Concordia and so on and so forth. So there's been some Division I basketball during the summer times and the summer months over the past decade or so. But now to have an MTE, which is a multi-team event, a tournament kind of style deal with Division I teams in Montreal for the first time, it's monumental, really, and it speaks to the evolution of basketball in Canada, but specifically in the province of Quebec and in our city in Montreal. So it's really, really exciting time in the evolution of basketball in the city, and it's I'm really proud and of where basketball has come in the last 20 or so years in the province, and with events like this now, bringing college basketball in the regular season, in the real season, not just summertime events. In the real season, where the standings count and all that kind of stuff, to have that kind of high-level basketball in Montreal is going to expose players in Montreal to Division I basketball right in their backyard.
Fantastic.
And it's going to inspire the next generation of young basketball players, and it could only propel basketball in Quebec and in Montreal further at an exponential rate. So this is really exciting times for basketball in Canada, but certainly basketball in our backyard in Quebec and Montreal.
You're right. This is exciting times. I would imagine when you say JD Sport, you're talking about my buddy John D'Angelis, who's got basketball,
the one and only,
in his blood and in his veins. And you're right when you're saying that it's such a great time for basketball in the city of Montreal, the province of Quebec. You say basketball, and you say Montreal, and you say Quebec. The first thing that comes to mind, is Chris Boucher, is Lugens Dort. Is Ben Maturin. I mean, I have 2 boys who are soccer players, 19 and 17. The 19 is absolutely head over heels over basketball. He loves it. I mean, he's looking at Ben Maturin's schedule with the Pacers, and he wants to go watch him play live. And I got a note just about half an hour ago, I think, from my nephew, and I want to bring this up here. Here we go. Buzzer beater alert. The bank is open on Thanksgiving for Tyrese Samuel. And Tyrese Samuel went to my high school. Yeah. LaSalle Catholic Comprehensive High School. Yep. So he's now become the pride of LaSalle here. There's gotta be a reason, more so than anything else, that so many great basketball players are coming out of Montreal. Is it one thing? Is it more than one thing? And have you been able to put your finger on it, Coach?
Well, I think it's a number of things. One, the game has become the globalization of basketball over the last 20, 30 years has been astronomical, right? It's one of the most popular sports overseas, and the NBA is playing games in China every year, and there's Africa basketball without borders. There's all kinds of different avenues overseas for young basketball players to be exposed to the game. So the globalization of basketball has really accelerated over the past decade or so, right? But not only that, at the grassroots level in Quebec, basketball, has become a really serious deal. You got the AAU teams who are taking kids to AAU tournaments in the summertime to be able to get exposed to high level competition, to be recruited by Division I athletes and coaches like myself. Division I coaches and to compete against other aspiring Division I athletes. So you got that piece. With that has become the evolution of the coaches at the grassroots level in Quebec and Montreal. So kids are getting instruction at a higher level at a younger age, and is making them better players. And that's kind of happened over the last 10, 15 years as well. So the entire game is evolving at every level. The players, the coaches, the organizational structure, and all the AAU programs, the high school programs, the club programs. It's really kind of risen kind of synonymously together over the course of the last 15 years. And now with guys like Lou Gurnsdor and Ben Maturin and Ken Birch and Chris Boucher, guys who have walked in the shoes and played in LaSalle and played at Sun Youth and played at Dawson and Vanier and all these different schools and, in our backyard, now kids are being exposed to those guys having success with basketball and seeing it as a much more plausible and realistic deal for themselves, right? It's one thing to watch college basketball and see a bunch of Americans playing and think that dream is really foreign to them and hard to attain. But it's another thing to see guys who go to your high schools and play in your local gyms to accomplish some of these high level dreams. And so they're aspiring to the next generation. I was inspired before I went to Champlain by guys like Bernard Cote and Mohamed Ashad and, guys, Prosper Karanga. I'm here in the Bahamas right now, playing in the Atlantis tournament. And Prosper Karanga from Montreal, he's a scout in the NBA, and I saw him yesterday. He's here scouting games and all that kind of stuff. And every time I see him, I tell him, I thank him because, when he played at Siena, made the NCAA tournament, and he was on CTV News and TSN and all that kind of stuff. I saw that as a young kid, and I was inspired. And that helped me want to become a Division I basketball player. Now we got guys, Ben Mathurin as my rookie of the year pick, and I'm in Indy right now. I live in Indy, so I've been to a couple of his games, his Pacers games. So I'm really proud to see him and what he's doing. And he's unbelievable. I was right there courtside for his first NBA basket.
Oh, really?
And all that, that kind of stuff. So it's just now the game has risen and evolved at a high level across the board, and now young kids get the chance to see people who come from the same places they come from. It's reaching these high levels, and it's inspiring them. It's inspiring me. I still feel like I'm a young kid trying to be inspired by these guys. So I'm just proud to be a part of this basketball community in Quebec and Montreal, and I'm trying to do my part on the coaching side of things to continue to grow the game. But certainly having an MTE tournament in JD Sports and what they're doing, bringing Division I basketball to Montreal, is just taking another step forward in the evolution of our game. I couldn't be more excited.
Well, to tell you how much we love Ben Maturin and how much we like basketball, I could tell you right now off the top of my head that one of the dates we have circled on our calendar is the 21st of December, because Ben and his Pacers are going to be in Boston visiting the Celtics. Nice. And it's kind of like it's less than a 5-hour drive away from Montreal, right? So there you go. It's one of the things that we're looking into. We talked about, basketball on grassroots level here. It should be noted they're not the only ones, but Brookwood Elite, if I'm not mistaken, and Nelson Osei, they got something terrific going on over there, which is awesome. And so, I want to talk to you about the 6 teams that are going to be here in Montreal: UNC, Greensboro Spartans, Hofstra Pride, Stephen F. Austin Lumberjacks, Quinnipiac Bobcats, Middle Tennessee State University Blue Raiders, and Montana State Bobcats. Once again, over the next 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday at Place Belle in Laval. If memory serves me well, it's 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Friday. It's 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturday. And on Sunday, it's 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. I know there's a lot of storylines here, but when I just mentioned these 6 teams, is there one thing that comes to your mind when I talk about these teams, one player or one coach? Is there something I should know because I don't know all that much about them?
No, I don't. I haven't watched all these teams closely. Yeah, I'm not sure what their records are and all that. Obviously, I have my own season, and we just
of course.
We just played a game tonight, so I'm not terribly familiar with a lot of the teams that aren't on our schedule. But I'll tell you this:
What can we expect to see, Coach? Talk to me about that. For those who are wondering, what kind of a show am I going to get at Place Bell and Laval when I go watch these teams? What kind of basketball am I going to see? What kind of athletes am I going to see? Is there any way you tonight can paint the picture?
Yeah, you're going to see great high-level basketball. You're going to see great teams and great coaches, great student athletes who compete at some of the highest levels. Compete in an MTE where they're fighting to build their identities with their teams and all that kind of stuff. And you're going to see an exciting brand of basketball. We played Hofstra last year when I was at the University of Richmond, and Speedy Claxton, who's a former NBA player, is the head coach there. He does an unbelievable job with his guys. I'm familiar with his team because we played against them recently, but not as familiar with the others. But this is high octane basketball with really high level coaches. And really talented players. So if you're a basketball junkie and you enjoy the game of basketball, you're going to go see some high level basketball players coached at a really high level by some talented coaches and programs who are, like everyone else, trying to build their identity early in the season before they go into conference play. And they're going to go out there in Montreal trying to find a way to get 2 or 3 wins to kind of further build their identities as they get going with the season. But again, if you're a basketball junkie, and you enjoy watching the game and you enjoy college basketball, to have live college basketball in the city of Montreal in the regular season, again, it's unheard of. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first time this has ever happened. And I think that if this is successful and is well attended, it's only going to grow. And then all of a sudden you're going to see more name brand teams and bigger name recognition in years to come, and more attendance and more revenue and all that kind of stuff. So I really believe this is just the start of something special in Montreal, bringing high-level basketball. And as the years go on, hopefully they can continue to bring high-level caliber teams into Montreal and increase attendance and increase notoriety. And that's just going to grow the game of basketball in our city, and it can only go up from there, man. So, again, really, really, really exciting time. And I urge everybody who's involved in the basketball community in Montreal to go out and support the event, support support not just these Division I schools, but support Montreal basketball, support the evolution of the game in our city, because it is important. And we, as myself, I coming up, going from Mont Royal to Champlain, over close to 20 years ago, I didn't get to see a Division I college basketball game until I was about 16, 17 years old. So for little kids who are 8, 9 years old, aspiring to go to college, to see these athletes up close and kind of have a feel for what it's like and kind of see the environment, to see the level of the high level of play, that's going to help basketball grow in our city, man. And that's ultimately the goal, is to continue to grow and continue to chip away at our potential. Our potential is incredibly high.
Yeah, and Coach, if I can let everyone know who's watching right now live on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitter, Hofstra, Stephen F. Austin, and Montana State all recently qualified for the NCAA March Madness tournament. So I think that's pretty cool. It's a great time for basketball in this city. We talked about the great basketball players coming out of Montreal and Quebec. We talked about the great basketball programs that we have. It was just season number 1, of course, for the Montreal Alliance in the CEBL, managed by Joel Anthony. We've had exhibition games at the Bell Center of NBA teams. And I got to tell you, I'm crossing my fingers. Look, I grew up with soccer and hockey in my blood primarily, but I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. I've gone to watch basketball games. I went to watch an Orlando Magic game in Orlando. I went to watch a Lakers game in Los Angeles. I went to watch a Raptors playoff game in Toronto versus back then LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. I believe, in terms of as a spectator sport, and I've been to the World Cup of soccer and I saw a Champions League final of soccer. I believe basketball as a spectator sport is the most exciting sport that you can watch as a fan.
I would have to agree. Yeah.
and I'm saying that. And once again, I grew up, with my parents who came here from Italy with soccer in their blood, and living in Montreal. I grew up with the Montreal Canadiens winning Stanley Cups with hockey in my blood. But I've said this before, and I'm going to continue to say it as a spectator sport. I believe basketball is the most entertaining and exciting sport that you can watch live. I thank you very much for doing this. And I want to let everyone know that you can buy reserved seats And you can also buy general admission seats, which cost only $20 plus tax to get you in for a full day. Once again, it's tomorrow, Friday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., Saturday, 2 p.m. to 7 p.m., and Sunday, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Coach, you just finished the game. I so very much appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for spreading the beautiful word that is basketball.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Thank you very much. And, of course, you can pick up those tickets at Evenco, and that would be at evenco.ca. There you have it. From one sport, beautiful sport, to another, it's now time to talk World Cup of Soccer.
Go for gold. A daily World Cup report.
Alfonso Davies keeps it himself. Goal!
Presented by Bijouterie Bossy.
Alfonso Davies.
Oh, yeah. Go for Gold is brought to you by Bijouterie Bossy, that have provided professional service and fine jewelry for over 30 years. Visit the store at 9640 Boulevard Saint-Michel in Montreal, and you can call them at 514-387-9528. Another great day in the World Cup. Uruguay was so impressive in dismantling Canada several months ago in a preparation game, or it seemed like it was several months ago. But today they had to settle for a draw with South Korea by a score of 2-0. Portugal versus Ghana. Cristiano Ronaldo scored. Yes, he did, on a penalty shot to give Portugal a 1-0 lead at the 65th minute. But 8 minutes later, Ghana tied it up. But then in a span of 3 minutes, Portugal got 2 goals, one by João Felix, the other by Leao. They went up by a score of 3-1. Ghana narrowed the lead to 3-2 at the 89th minute mark. But unfortunately, even after they added 5 or 6 minutes of stoppage time, Ghana could not equalize, and that's the way it ended. Portugal win by a score of 3-2. Switzerland with a big 1-0 win over Cameroon on a goal by Mbolo. That came at the 48th minute of play. They win their opening game, and everyone was waiting the entrance of the great Brazil, who went up against Serbia, and it wasn't going to be easy. But I got to tell you that Richarlison scored a couple of goals, and his second on like a kind of like a half volley was absolutely beautiful on a pass by Vinicius Jr. They went up at the 62nd minute. They got the second one at the 73rd minute. 2 goals by the same player. They win by a score of 2-0. So a very successful entrance at the Qatar 2022 World Cup for Brazil. We now bring up tomorrow's games. I think we should have them right here. Here we go. Man, what a team I have behind me. Back at Master Control, I'm talking about Sammy and Yellow and Juliana, of course, at 5 a.m. tomorrow. It's Wales versus Iran, as Wales play their second game after tying Team USA by a score of 1-1 a couple of days ago. Qatar looks to rebound after dropping the first game 2-0 to Ecuador. They play versus Senegal. It's the Netherlands versus Ecuador, and the Netherlands, who was victorious a couple of days ago versus Senegal, as a matter of fact. They take on Ecuador, so 2 teams that won their first game there. And England, who put 6 goals by Iran in a 6-2 win in their opener, they play Team USA. That game goes at 2 p.m. So 4 very good games, but I have to tell you, the one that most has my attention is England versus USA tomorrow at 2 p.m. So I know this. I'm going to be home all day tomorrow. I'm going to be watching those games. And if I'm not going to be watching those games, as a matter of fact, my son is going to watch the basketball tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm going with him tomorrow or I'm going with him on Saturday. I suggest you go out and you support basketball in the city. Once again, general admission seats for just $20 plus tax. I hope you enjoyed the Sick Podcast tonight. We gave you Grant McCagg to talk to you about Slafkovsky, Jordan Harris, Arbor Jackeye, Caden Gooley, the young players, prospects, even a possible trade with the New Jersey Devils. Chris from Sports Cards La Tornade and Vaudreuil-Dorion telling you that tomorrow is going to be a big sale, Black Friday sale at his store in Vaudreuil-Dorion. Talk to us about the sports player card business. Coach Maurice Joseph, assistant coach at Butler University, talking to us about 6 Division I NCAA basketball teams that are going to be participating in games that will actually count in the standings over the next 3 days in Montreal, and our Goal for Gold segment talking to you about World Cup 2022. This is the Sick Podcast. We are taking over sports in Montreal, sports in Quebec, shortly sports in Canada. Podcast is the way to go. I knew what I was doing. Some thought I was crazy. I told them, I'm not crazy. I'm sick. I'm Marinaro. Good night, everyone.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different, 8.6, intense by nature, and La Cage. If the last time you went to La Cage was when the Habs won the cup, it's time you went back to La Cage. The menu will surprise you.